I know that you're listening. Are you listening?
Well, that was Lady Gaga and her poker face. Screamed or spoke at the National Equality Rally for Gay Rights in Washington. Many of the marchers here said they are disappointed with the delay from the White House on campaign promises. In fact, they want the president to allow gay military members to serve openly. They want him to ban discrimination of gays in the workforce. And they ask, how's it any different than life with Republicans in power? Joining me now, Republican strategist Brad Blakeman and Charles Moran with the Log Cabin Republicans, which works for gays in the GOP. It's good to see both of you today.
Thank you.
Let me just ask you, Brad, what's your stand on gays serving openly in the military?
I think it's up to the military to make that decision. They're the ones who have to implement policy. Certainly, there are gays in the military today by the thousands, and they serve honorably. And it really a tough decision that the military has to make to the political people as to what the ultimate decision should be.
And what about the federal ban on discrimination of gays in the workplace?
There should not be discrimination of any kind in the workplace. Republicans believe that. We believe in freedom of contract as well, that gays should be able to contract regarding estates rights, regarding contractual relationships. So there's a lot of things that the Republicans are for, but the Democrats are painting themselves in a box because they're making all these promises, yet they're not delivering on anything.
Yeah, Charles, when you're looking at action and who takes action on issues of gay rights, is this in the Republican platform?
Well, quite honestly, we've got a lot of Republicans who are moving forward to try to implement some of these things that Brad was just discussing. Right now, the only organization that has a federal lawsuit pending challenging the Department of Defense's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy is Log Cabin Republicans. One of the main co-sponsors of legislation trying to repeal it in the Congress, a Republican congresswoman from Florida, Ileana Ross-Layton. And we've got Republican co-sponsorships. We had 44 Republicans vote for the DOD authorization bill that would have put in place hate crimes protection for gays and lesbians. We have a long track record of bringing together Republicans and Democrats on bipartisan ways to go ahead and push this type of legislation through Congress. But all we're getting is more feet dragging and empty promises from the Obama administration.
So let me actually play what President Obama said about gays serving openly in the military.
We are moving ahead on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We should not be punishing patriotic Americans who have stepped forward to serve this country. We should be celebrating their willingness to show such courage and selflessness on behalf of their fellow citizens, especially when we're fighting two wars.
When he says we're moving ahead on Don't Ask, Don't Tell, what does that mean to you here, Charles?
Contessa, the President of the United States just said to the largest gathering of the umbrella organization of the HRC that he is working to defeat and to take down Don't Ask, Don't Tell. At the same time, President Obama has instructed his Justice Department to fight our lawsuit to keep, for the Obama administration keeping Don't Ask, Don't Tell in place. What way is it? He says one thing, but Rahm Emanuel and the White House are digging their heels in, slowing down any progress on passage of our legislation. He says one thing, he does something completely different.
You know, it's interesting because, Brad, there seems to be a big divide here on both sides. When Republicans had control of Congress, when there was a Republican in the White House, we saw things like the Defense of Marriage Act, which makes it very clear that gay people have no right to marry. Is it time for the Republicans to join some of the Democrats who are taking a strong stand and saying that gay rights are human rights?
Look, gay rights are human rights. Come on. Gays are human beings the same as anybody else. The question is, where do we go? With regard to marriage, the Republicans are very clear. Marriage is between a man and a woman. But that's not to say that we don't recognize the rights, the contractual rights that everybody should have. The argument here is not really between the politicians. The argument on marriage is between the church and the state. That's the problem, and nobody's making that argument. The gays should be trying to lobby their churches to make that distinction.
Yeah,
it's not the politicians.
But here's the thing. I didn't get married in a church, so I just care that the government recognizes my marriage. That's what I care about. I don't care about a church recognizing my marriage. Yes, I care about the government recognizing my marriage. And as it stands right now, on a federal level, the government doesn't. Is it time to put that into the Republican platform?
Well, in Contessa, the issue here is we're not forcing churches to marry anybody that they don't want to.
It's a civil issue.
We dealt with that during segregation. We didn't force churches to marry couples that were of a different racial background. It didn't happen then, and it's not going to happen now if the federal government decides that it wants to recognize relationships between two men or two women. There's going to be no pushing of any kind of agenda on churches. They have the ability to continue to make those decisions for themselves.
But in terms of the Republican platform, I'm asking, is it time to include that issue on the Republican platform?
It is a very conservative nature to say that power should be vested in one's family and that our families are the building blocks of our communities. That is a conservative principle, and that's all we're asking for. Yeah. Republicans, gays and lesbians believe in family values, but our families are just as important and valid as a traditional or a male-female family. We are not that different from our colleagues in the Republican Party. We're family too, and we have the same rights and needs that everybody else has as well, and we need to be included in the table because this is how we're going to keep the Republican Party competitive with a changing society.
Charles, I appreciate your time. Brad, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
My big questions today on gay rights. Why the presidential delay on Don't Ask, Don't Tell?